Welcome back, folks, and it's that time of year, a new beginning of the year, new things to double check, make sure that they're absolutely okay on the boat. We've got a whole season in front of us, and the checks I make on this boat before the season start, I recommend that you make that check as well, because when you're out there you just don't want any mistakes if you can help it. The last thing anyone wants is to get towed in or get the R&R out, or some other means of getting back in. So the check I'm going to do today, and only one of the checks I'm going to do today, but there is many more, and I'll put them on the videos a bit later on, is the anchor. Probably one of the most important things on the boat is the anchor. If it all fails, the engine fails, the whole lot goes to pot, the anchor is the single thing that's going to stop you going adrift, or even drifting into a shipping lane, or worse, drifting onto the rocks. So I'm going to check the anchor out, and I'm going to show you how I rig my anchor for the ground I fish in. So I typically fish in sort of rocky, reefy ground at times, and if you don't have that anchor tripped, you will definitely lose your anchor at some point. It will get snagged in. So join me, and I'll show you how we trip the anchor for this location I fish in. So I've laid my anchor out, and I've just checked all the chain. So I'll go through all the linkages. It's fairly new chain, it's only a couple of years old, and I've gone through the linkages, make sure there's no breaks, nicks, dings, anything that's going to cause me problem, and it's in really good condition, which is why I would expect after only a couple of years old. I have 60 foot of chain for a Merry Fish IO 5, and I've checked the anchor, that's all good. I do use a heavy anchor. I'm on 15 kilo anchor, and the reason why I'm on 15 kilo of anchor is because in the winter months with the swells and the conditions sometimes is that the 10 kilo anchor, it will hold, but it has been known to drag. So I'll just go that little bit more to make sure that when I hit that anchor in, it holds fast, and that's exactly what I want. So that's one of the checks. Check all the chain, make sure it's all fit. One of the next things I check is the fitting onto the chain, so I'll show you that next. So I have an anchor swivel, which helps when I retrieve the anchor up, that it doesn't all twist up, and the actual swivel makes the anchor come up the correct way as it should. It's stainless steel. The pins have been known to snap. I've not had on this, but I do know they do snap. Again, the joint in there, you need to check that, make sure it all looks good as best you can. You can't really get in there, but it gives you some idea, you know. Just look inside, see if you can see any sort of misdemeanors, you know, it's worn or anything like that. Making sure that the nuts are tight, and I know they're tight because I checked them earlier on. So you know that's all good. That's a good fixing point. You probably see I've got a shackle in there. Now that shackle is in there for when I want to hold fast and not have the anchor tripped. When I'm anchoring for an overnight stay, or I'm staying in the harbour for several hours, I want to make sure that anchor is not going to self-trip when I put it into trip mode, sort of thing. So it's a fixed position. It keeps the anchor chain where it should do, and that's all good, and I'm confident with that. It's just a matter of taking the shackle off, and that freeloads it loose. Now for tripping, I'll show you the tripping setup for what I do. So at the very start of the anchor, I have an offset stainless steel shackle which lays the chain along the shank of the anchor quite nicely to the fixing point, and that is where you're going to put your fixing point for your anchor chain to the anchor. Now, a lot of people use tie wraps, the nylon tie wraps. Yeah, they work, particularly easy to get hold of, particularly easy to use. But for my application, I found that you either have to put a load of them on, or one big one, and I just don't feel that the really big one is the sort of thing that I want to be having discarded on the seabed, to be honest with you, because they are quite big. It's nylon, it's going to sit there forevermore, just not good for the environment. And I try to do my little bit, that's all I say. So what I'll do, I'll use a bit of wire. It's only a bit of garden wire, that's all I use. If it snaps or lose it, it's going to degrade. And the way I'll do it is I pull the chain fairly taut and I put the wire through, run it alongside, and literally just turn it round and round so it's twisted up and it's holding. You can cut the ends off if you like, I don't bother. And there it goes. So there's a bit of movement in the chain, so that wire's not taking all the load, but it keeps it nice and taut to the anchor. So when the anchor's laid out on the floor bed, it will be dug into the ground and the chain will lay out nicely on the floor. Now, if I get the anchor snagged, I can bring the anchor line up, or anchor rode up, as taut as I can get it, but not too taut because you don't want to damage the boat, and the angle of attack will change. And then enough torsion on the boat will snap that cable off, which then allows, let me show you, because I shall undo this as if the cable snapped. So then now the chain has come loose and the anchor chain is now at that angle. Now look at that. You're now reversing the anchor back outwards. And it generally will release the anchor. And that's how I set my anchor up for the area I anchor in, and a lot of anglers do set their anchors up like that, but many don't. It's completely your choice. They're not cheap. The anchors, the chain, they're not cheap. So you've got to think about these things, but you also got to think about your safety. It's that balance, really. So once you've done all that, I go through and checking all the rope as well, because there's no point having a really good chain and anchor if you've got a ding or nick in your anchor rope. There's my anchor rope. I've been through all of that. I'm happy with it. There's no nicks or dings or frays that's going to affect the strength of it. So it's all good for the season. I will keep an eye on it through the season, as you lay the anchor rope out, just to check that it's all okay. But it's all good. As you can see, I've got a windlass. Got the button up and down there. It makes my life easy. Downside to an 805 is you have to come around the front of the boat to the anchor locker, because the anchor locker is not deep enough for the anchor row to lay correctly, and the windlass will jam. One of those things. You can damn buoy the anchor up, but I personally wouldn't. Let the winch do the business. It's a lot safer, a lot more controlled. And there we go. I hope that helps people that are thinking about going to a bigger boat or anchoring in some particularly rough ground or like, and make sure you make your checks every season to make sure you're safe.